All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. What I'm going to attempt to do right now is to create a C-sharp Magic 8-ball project from scratch. I'm going to do this in a series of 2, 3, 4, whatever it takes, videos. This is going to be in conjunction with a visit that I'm going to have from about 30 or so students from Lewis and Clark on Friday, March 10th. So this is what we're going to attempt to build as a class, for lack of better words. So the first thing to do is to come in and click your Windows Start button, and from there peruse your way down to almost the very bottom of the screen. And what you want to find here is you should have Visual Studio loaded. Now you'll notice there's a folder with a bunch of stuff in it, but we don't care. We care about the icon here that looks kind of like a purple bow tie, purple and white bow tie, for lack of better terms. And it says Visual Studio 2015 near it. And if you click that, that will bring up Visual Studio Community Edition 2015. The Community Edition part is quite important because what that means is it's the free version that anyone can go and download. So anyone who wanted to create this project would be able to do so. It comes up and it looks like this. And you'll see that what you get are a ton of hyperlink things over here on or in the center of the screen. There are videos that are available, there are articles that are available, etc. You can start a new project from here, open an existing project from here, or if you're working with something with source control, where you've got a project and you need to keep track of changes made, etc., you can choose that one. You can choose any recent projects, and you can see I have a few of them here. But what I typically like to do is literally just close this. Now what you see on your screen are 3 different areas. Actually 4. 5. The area up here has got our menus and the like in there, so I'm not going to concentrate on that for right now. The area over here has got our toolbox in it, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. There are currently no tools in here because we don't have an active project up and running. On the bottom of the screen is our error, warning, etc. area. So if we try to run the program and we have problems, they'll typically appear down here. The area in here is our working area, and that's going to change as far as the way it looks in just a minute. The area in here has got what's called the Solution Explorer, and what it also should have is something that's called the Properties window. So it's split in half, and I can make these halves bigger or smaller as need be. All right. Now we're going through this kind of quickly, but what we're going to do is we're going to create a GUI, or graphical user interface project. We're going to do that in just a moment. All right. So I'm going to come in here and click File and New, and I'm going to choose Project. The stuff that's in here that we're not going over, for now at least, isn't really that important. The only thing I would tell you is you notice under Project is Website. If we were working in ASP.NET, where we actually wanted to create an application that we could put on a server, we choose Website. We don't. We're having our own application, so we're just going to choose Project. All right. And you'll notice that we get a bunch of stuff here and a bunch of stuff here. You want to make sure when you're working with C# that the thing that's highlighted here is Visual C#. You'll notice there's other languages: Python, Visual F#, Visual Basic, Visual C++, JavaScript, TypeScript, SQL Server, etc., and even some other projects. But we don't care about those. We only care about Visual C#. That's the C with a pound sign. Now, most of the work that you'll do in this window right here is you'll choose one of 2 different things. You'll either choose Windows Forms application, which means you want to create a GUI, or graphical user interface project, or you'll create a console application. All right? In which case, you don't want a GUI. You just want a console app that will look like it runs from a DOS command line. The other things that are in here, for now at least, are not really important. We want to choose Windows Forms application, and your screen is going to look a little different here, but you want to choose Browse, and you want to make sure that it's set, in your case, to run, and I'll do the same, right underneath our desktop. So we want to choose desktop. So it should say desktop down there and select folder. It says no object for moniker, which I've never seen before. Well, let's make a folder in here. Okay, and we're going to call it L&C for Lewis and Clark. All right, so I'm inside of there, so that's where I want to create this, is in that folder. And you'll notice that's where it's going to create it. And since it's going to be a Magic 8-Ball application, let's call it what it is. Magic 8-Ball. The system may let you put blank spaces in a project name like this, but it's never a good idea to do that. So I'm just running the Magic, the 8, and the ball together, and I'm going to click OK. The solution name and the name should be the same thing, so it's going to put a solution file under this folder. Create directory for solution. Yes, we want to put it all into its own directory, so I'm going to click OK. What you'll notice in just a minute is there'll be a bunch of files that will be created in here. I've got a properties listing, which I should never have to touch, a references listing, which I should never have to touch, an app config file, which I should never have to touch, and you can see there's not much in there. The two that I'm concerned with in here are the form1.cs and the program1.cs. So this program form.cs is this file. That's where I'm going to create my graphical user interface. So I'm going to stretch it out a little bit so it's nice and big. When the program runs, I'm going to want one of three things to happen. I'm going to have a button here in just a minute that I can click so that if I ask a question to the system and I click the button, the Magic 8-Ball is going to change to give me the answer. This is all things we're going to do. If I want to reset my screen, I'll have a reset button, and if I want to end the program, I'll have an end program button. So the first thing I'm going to do is to create 3 buttons on my screen to do that. There's my first button. I'm going to make it a little wider and a little bigger. And then I'm going to do a Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste, and Control-V to paste. So I want 3 instances of this button in here. All right, so this will be my button to actually run and get a message from the Magic 8-Ball. This will be my reset button, and this will be my exit button. We'll handle all that in just a couple minutes. I need an area in here where I can actually ask the question. So I'm going to move this down a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to come down to where it says text box. And I'm going to drag one of those out. And it's not nearly as big enough for us. We want it to be nice and big. But right now, by default, the text box is only designed to hold a single line. So I'm going to come down here where it says multi-line, and it says false, and I can click on it and click the down arrow and choose true, or I can just double click on it, and now it's a multi-line text box. So now I can drag that down, and you can see it's nice and big now. It should work just fine with what we want it to do. All right, and the last thing I want to do, because we're almost done painting our interface, is I want to go up to a picture box control, because that's where we're going to put the picture of the Magic 8-Ball in just a minute. I may have to adjust the size, height, or width of this, but that's okay. Okay, so this is our interface. Before we go on, let's do a few things that'll make our life easier for us, such as, well, I'm going to click on the form itself. This is called the form. You notice it says Form 1. And you should always rename your controls, because Form 1 is kind of a silly name. So I'm going to call this form Magic 8-Ball. You cannot have spaces or special characters when you're naming your controls, which are what all these are known as. So I've changed my name to Form Magic 8-Ball. Now I'm going to come down where it's got text, and that's what's actually appearing right here. And I'm going to say the Magic, whoops, don't know what I did there. The Magic 8-Ball sees all, knows all, tells all. And you can see how that changed right there. Okay? The next thing I'm going to do is, I don't really like this kind of pale blue background color that I have on here. So I'm going to click on the form, and I'm going to go up to where it says back color. And I'm going to click right there on it. And I'm going to click the down arrow, and I'm going to click where it says custom. Now I can make any color I want, basically, but I'm just going to use the colors that are built in. I'm going to choose this kind of purple one, and you can see exactly what happened right there. All right. So far we've come in, we've added 3 button controls to our form control. We added a text box control right here to our form control. And we added an image or picture box to our form control. All right? You should always strive to name these things something that's reflective of what they're doing. So I'm going to click here on Magic 8 Ball, and I'm going to change the name from Picture Box 1 to Picture Box Magic 8 Ball. All right, I'm going to go down to my text box here, and I'm going to change the name from Text Box 1 to Text Box Ask Question. You'll notice that I'm using a case in this too that's referred to, this isn't true, yeah, I guess it is. This is what's called camel case text. And what I mean by that is every word, the start of every new word in here is capitalized, except for the first one. So now I've come in, oh, it says it's not valid. Don't know what I did. Text box ask question. That should be totally valid. And it is. Okay, so I've got that done. So I've now come in and I've renamed my form to Form Magic 8 Ball. I changed the text on the background color of the form. I changed the name of my picture box to Picture Box Magic 8 Ball. I've changed the name of my text box to Text Box Ask Question. Now let's do our buttons. The first button I'm going to call Button Submit Question. All right. Again, these things where it says name, that's the name of the actual form. My name is Jeff, for example. This is the text that actually appears in the button. This can have blank spaces in it if you want. So you notice I've got Submit Question. Good. The second one will be called Reset Form. And again, the text on it will be reflective of what it's trying to do. And the last one will be called Exit Application. All right. So right now, I have my graphical user interface is all set up in here. All right. In that, I've got 3 buttons, I've got a text box, and I've got a picture box on my form. I guess one more thing I'd like to put in here is I'd also like 4 menu options. One that'll say Submit Question, Reset Form, Exit Application, and I'll also have one that says Help. But I like the menu to go right up here. So I'm going to find where it says Menu Strip. I'm going to click that. I'm going to drag it right up into the upper corner here. All right, and notice I can start typing. So I'm going to type in here Submit Question. All right, if I wanted another menu option underneath here, I could click this one, but I want one next to it, so I'm going to click here. And I'm going to put in Reset Form. And again, if I wanted something underneath it, I could click here, but I want something over there. So I'm going to have this say just Exit. And then finally another one over here that's going to say Help. Whoops, don't know what happened there. So I now have my menu structure built in here also. So notice whether I click the button or the menu option, the button or the menu option, the button or the menu option, I'm going to have all that stuff fire. Now, I should rename these too because I don't really like the names that they give me. It's called Submit Question Tool Strip Menu Item. To me, that's too big of a mouthful. So I don't know why I need the tool strip in there. So I'm just going to call this Submit Question Menu Item. I like that better. This next one will be Reset Form Menu Item. This will be called Exit Menu Item. And this last one will be called Help Menu Item. Now, if I want to come in and actually see what all my things are called at one time, I can go up to my Properties window up here, click this down arrow in the white box that you see right there, and it shows me the name of everything that I've got in here. So notice Form Magic 8-Ball, Button Exit Application, Button Reset Form, Button Submit Question, Exit Menu Item, Form 1 Magic 8-Ball, Help Menu Item, the Menu Strip, which is the whole thing here. I did not rename this because I really didn't feel the need to. Picture Box Magic 8-Ball, Reset Form Menu Item, Submit Question Menu Item, Text Box Ask Question. So all the names are pretty reflective of what's going on in here. I'm going to set up a few different things, and then I'm going to end this particular part of the lecture. Okay, the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure when I click Submit Question right there, when I click that, what I'm going to want is the image that's in here to change, and we'll talk about that in the next lecture. But I also want this text box here to disappear, and I want the button that says Submit Question to be grayed out because I've already submitted the question. So let's talk about the actions we'd need to make those happen. So again, I want that to disappear, I want that to gray out, and there'll be other things that we'll add a little bit later, but at a minimum, that's what I want to have happen. So if I double click on the button, it brings up what's called the code window for the button. And what did we say we wanted to have happen here? We want this to disappear. This, which is called Text Box Ask Question. So we want, and you'll notice that stuff is coming up on here. This is called IntelliSense. I can highlight it and double click it and notice it set it up for me. So Text Box Ask Question, dot, and these are called properties. And the property that I'm going to put in here, all right, is something that's called visible. And if I type in a V, you'll notice it brings up my V properties, and there's visible. So I want the visible property to be equal to false. I want that to disappear. I also want the button I'm working with, which is my button, Submit Question. I want its, I don't want to make it invisible, but I want to say the enabled property. I want that equal to false as well. All right, that's all we've done. So let's save this. I'm going to click the double disk icon here, and to run the program, I'm just going to click this Start button. Now, what should happen when we click this is two things should happen. This should disappear, and this should gray out. So let's see if they both work. Okay, that disappeared, and you can see how it's grayed out. All right, so far, so good. Now, we'll add more, information a little bit later. So I'll put a comment here. It's in green, which means it's ignored by the computer. We put comments in for us. All right, so make text box invisible. Disable submit question button. So that's what we've done so far. Now let's look at it again, and when we click this button to reset the form, well, this has disappeared. We want that to come back again. And then we want this to become what's called disabled, and we want that to be enabled. All right, so let's talk about how to do that. Well, we already saw this, how to disable and enable, etc. So I'm going to just copy that same stuff in here. But now I want to say make the text box visible. So I want to set the visible property not to false, but to true. All right, and then I don't want to disable my submit question button. I want to enable the submit question button. So I'll set that to true. But now I also want to disable the reset button. All right. So let's save it again and run it. All right, now you'll notice when I click this, it goes away and it becomes disabled. When I click this, it's now enabled, this is disabled, and my box is back. So far, we're doing great. All right, let's continue on. Well, if I want to, when I click this exit button right here, I can literally type in this, application.exit. All right, if I run the program again with that in there, that application.exit, with paren. All right, so if I save that, now notice I can submit, boom, it goes away, gets disabled, I can reset, comes back, enable, disabled, and I can click exit application, boom, I'm out. That's a little bit, what I just put in there, that application.exit, that's known as being a little bit harsh. And what I mean by that is I'm actually doing, making it a little bit harder because I'm not giving the user a chance to say, well, I don't really want to exit. Maybe I press that button accidentally. So let's put in that logic. So we're going to say here, if, all right, message box dot show, all right, so I want to do a message box, and I want it to show. What do I want it to show? I'm going to show you all of this stuff, no pun intended. I'm going to put in here, do you really want to exit the program? All right, I'm going to build this very incrementally for you. All right, so let me just put in here just that. There won't be anything in there, but I want this to run so that you can see what happens when we do run it. All right, so I'm going to build this incrementally. So I'm going to say equal dialog result I'm going to just build it like this. Okay? I'll add stuff to it as we go on, but I want you to see this. All right, so I'm going to put in here message box show. Do you really want to exit the program? That's what I'm going to put in here. All right, just like that. And we're going to comment out our exit part, but I want you to see this. All right, so this message box.show, if we did it correctly, we should have a message box that comes up. And if you don't know what that is, you'll see it in a minute. And the text on there should be, do you really want to exit the program? So let's save and run this. And let's click this. There it is. Do you really want to exit the program? So as you can see, that right there is this right here. But you may or may not have noticed when we ran that, there was text in here, but there's no title, there's no icon, etc. So we're going to change all that stuff. So what you put down when you use a message box in here is the text you want to show. Well, I'm going to put a comma in here, and then go down to the next line because I'm just running out of room, and I'm going to say exit program now, question mark, etc. All right, so I just added this, and let's see what that did. So I'm going to save, run my program again, click the exit button. Now I've got a title. So I've got a title and I've got my text. All right, the next thing I want to do is I want there to be, it gives me an OK button right now, but I don't want that. All right, I want there to be a yes, no, so the user can make up his or her mind. So I'm going to say message box buttons dot yes, no. All right. So I've got all that. So now notice that when I click this, instead of instead of an OK button, there's a yes button and there's a no button. I can click them. They won't do anything yet. Then finally, I want to change or add an icon. So message box icon dot question. Let's run the program one more time and click the OK button, or the exit button. Now it looks a little bit more professional. Exit program now. Question mark for the icon. Do you really want to exit the program for my text? A yes button and a no button. Okay? Not bad. Okay? So we've got all that stuff, but nothing magically is happening if we do this. So I actually want, if we did say yes, in other words, if that comes up and we click yes, then I want to exit the program. So I want to do that. But right now, it's going to run this, and regardless of what we put, it's going to exit. We only want to do it if you answered yes. So I want to say here, if, all right. Dialog result. And what we want to choose in here is the yes option. And for the life of me right now, I can't remember how to do that. But we're going to find it in just a minute, okay? So this isn't right, but that's basically what we want to do. So if we choose the yes option, we want to exit the program. And if we don't, we want to stay in the program. So what I'm going to do is I've already got this written, and I'm going to cheat a little bit here. And what I mean is, just because I don't want to waste my time, I don't want to waste your time. All right, I'm going to go and find the code, and then we'll go put it in, and I'll explain it to you. So under my desktop, I've got a folder called C#. There's the Magic 8-Ball. This isn't the same one I've already... this is a copy, basically, of the one I'm building right now. So again, what I should have put in is something more along the lines of this. We put in a comment here. So we've got exit. You really want to exit program. Buttons, yes, no, boom. Okay, that should have been it. Equal. Dialog result dot yes. That's all I needed. All right. Again, I apologize for not being able to remember that. So now let's take a look. This is saying in English, when we run our program and we click the exit button that's called button exit application. This is the click event for the button. So it's what we want to have happen when the button is clicked. This should bring up a message box with the text, do you really want to exit the program? And a title of exit program now. It should have yes and no buttons. And it's saying here, if we clicked yes, if we did indeed click yes, meaning that's what we wanted to do. So if indeed we did that, that's right, the way it was. All right. So if it was yes, we want to do this. That's it. So let's run it and see what happens. It says I have errors. Somehow I lost a curly brace there. I think that's what the problem was. And I actually lost another curly brace there somehow. All right. Possibly mistaken empty return statement because you don't put a semicolon on the end there. All right, so that's all my errors are fixed. So let's run this. You saw the submit question that goes away and is disabled. You saw this. It comes back. That's enabled. That's disabled. Now notice when we click the exit application, we get all of our stuff. If I click no, I stay here, but if I click yes, boom, it's gone. All right, a couple more things and then we're going to stop with this part of the lecture because that's actual code I put in. So I've added code to my reset form button and to my exit button. So we've done all that. Let's go back in and let's set up a couple things. What do I mean by that? Well, first, let's set it up so if we either click this button or if we hit the enter key, the code will run. And when we click this button or we hit the escape key, that code will run. So I'm going to click on submit question, all right? And there's nothing really here to make that magically happen. However, if I click on the blank spot on the form itself, single click, I don't want to bring up a code window. If I click on the form, and you can see how that changes, there's something near the top called accept button. And if I click where it says none, I get a drop down arrow. And when I click here, submit question, all right, now that changed that accept button. So what did that do? I'm going to run the program again. You already saw when I click that button what happens. But now, notice I've got my mouse over here. I'm just going to hit enter. All right. And it says, do you really want to exit the program? That's not what I wanted to choose here. So, accept button, submit question. That's what should have ran. And it didn't. Well, let's try the other one, the cancel button. So I want it, when I hit the escape key, I want the reset to run. All right, so I'm going to go over here and find cancel button, and I'm going to set that to button reset form. Let's see if that one works. All right, so if I got this and I click here, you see what happens. If I got this, there's the mouse. If I hit escape, nothing's happening. Somehow, the wrong things are being associated with this stuff. So this is called button submit question, as it should be. That is the right code. This is called reset form, and that's the right code. This is called exit application, and that's the right code. So I'm not sure why those buttons aren't working. We're going to get it fixed. But one more thing I want to do, and we'll put this lecture to sleep, is I'm going to click here, okay, and I'm going to go down to where it says start position, and it's got Windows default location. I'm going to click there, get a down arrow, and choose center screen. Doesn't look any different, but notice now when I run the program, it appears smack dab in the middle of the screen. All right, so our submit works, our reset works. All right, we're going to make these work in the next lecture. We're also going to fix the escape and the cancel because I don't know what's wrong with that. And our exit works. So that's the end of part 1. We built our interface for the most part. We still have to put our magic 8-ball in here. We've added all of our controls. And one last thing I'm going to do, and then we're going to stop. I'm going to highlight everything. I can highlight everything by either holding down on my left mouse button and drawing what's called lassoing all of my controls, or I can click on the form and do a Control A, which chooses them also. But now, with all of them chosen, I want to right mouse click in here and I want to choose lock control. So something weird is happening here. That's what I want. Lock controls. There we go. Now they've got little locks there. What does that mean? That means I can't move these things around anymore. They're all stationary. Okay? Finally, I want to set it up so when the program runs, I want my cursor to be right in here. And I'm going to be able to hit tab and tab and tab. So I want to set what's called my tab order. So with this highlighted, I'm going to click View and go to Tab Order. And I'm going to set that to 0, which means the first one. 1, 2, 3. Okay? So now notice, okay, we'll make that 4, 5, come on. that's where my problem is, I believe. Somehow that's a little goofy. Okay, so we'll have to fix those. All right. But notice now I can do another view tab order to make those numbers go away. But if I click my mouse, notice where the cursor is. It's right in here. And when I click tab and a tab and a tab, now my tab order's been set. So in the next lecture, I'm going to come back and I'm going to continue on from here. And I'll be back with that very shortly.